Hey everyone, Austin Schneider here. Welcome to Rise Podcast, where we talk about real influence, self-development, and entrepreneurship. Welcome to another episode of Rise Podcast. In this episode, I was super fortunate to have my good friend Alex Mont-Ros join me on my podcast. Alex is an entrepreneur that recently sold his company, a great leader, family man, and a man of faith. In this episode, we learn more about his incredible story of entrepreneurship, how he got where he is. We talk about faith, leadership, and way more. This is a good convo, guys, and I'm stoked to bring you in on it. If you like the interview, I would just ask one thing. You share it with someone that you think would benefit from it. I started this podcast so I can help get inspiring messages out and allow people to see potential and unlocking in themselves to rise up in their personal and professional lives. And if it's not being shared, it's not fulfilling its purpose. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Rise Podcast. Super excited because we have the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend Alex. Come on, man. What is going on, dude?
Oh, man. No, bigger than you're now the man, the myth, the legend. The beautiful news that we just saw on social and you've been sharing with all your friends. Congratulations on, and she said yes, which is awesome. So
I'm in sales, so was able to convince her. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. So congratulations on that.
Took a while, but
kick it off on that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the best news. That's if there's any nugget that's going to be shared is the courage that Austin had to actually ask. And you, man, that takes some courage, man. Take some courage.
You know, if people are listening, they're dating or they're single, it does take a lot of courage to ask. And I thought I was going to go in all nonchalant, but to actually verbalize that and to make it an experience is definitely something. So
yeah, very cool. Very cool.
But
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, dude, we are stoked. Honor you for your time. This is going to be good. Listeners, Alex is very successful. I'm excited to tap into a story, hear a little bit about his mindset, his leadership. He's had to flex a lot of leadership muscle and entrepreneurship muscle throughout his life. But why don't I just kind of kick it to you first? Would love to hear your story. Just kind of how you got to where you are now. I know you've had a lot of successes and recently sold your company, which is phenomenal. Congratulations there. But what was the Alex like before entrepreneurship? I mean, before we even met. I'm really curious, just for my own being, to kind of hear your story.
No, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'd love to share. So originally from Las Vegas, Nevada. That's kind of where it all started, right? And the Vegas mentality, there is a weird Vegas mentality that those that are from Vegas understand. Like any place, right? I mean, Seattle has theirs, and New York, and all these different places. So was born in Miami, raised in Las Vegas. I come from, my family's Cuban. So both my family, my mom and dad had come to the States. Gosh, my dad came in like the late 50s. And my mom followed a few years later on. So we had a really healthy home all the way up to about 7 years old. I remember having a happy childhood and things were great. And at that time, right about 7, 6, my mom got ill with cancer. She ended up passing away a year later. And I remember that was really tough on my dad, both on the family in general. I was really young to understand, I think, the gravity of death. Right at that age, I think it hit my brother. My brother was 14 at the time, hit him a lot harder. And I could tell the difference in our lives and how we totally took two different paths. Unfortunately, he took a kind of a path that, caused him a lot of suffering and grief. And I chose this different path in life and had my own challenges. But that really started to develop the character and going through that experience in life. And for about 7 years after that, all the way to about 15, went through multiple situations in our life where homeless at times. I mean, we would sleep in the parking lots of like these casinos, the Santa Fe, you name it. Many nights we've slept, we didn't have anywhere to go. My dad kind of lost his mind after my mom had passed. So, but he was very entrepreneurial at the same time. I remember him always coming up with business ideas, and he was always working really hard, but at the same time, trying to figure out a way to kind of get by. And there was some scenarios there where, we just had to do what we had to do. And it was not fun. But thankfully there was some very generous people in my life that took me in at about the age of 11 or 12. And they kind of gave me some stability to at least get through middle school. And so I had a place to stay. And I remember seeing my dad at times. I would be in this house sleeping, and I would see my dad and my brother, because they would have to take me to school in the morning. They would be sleeping in their car, like down the street. And I would feel so bad that at times I'd leave and I'd go and I'd just go in the car with them and be like, hey, let's go take off, and, we'll figure it out later. And so I had to grow up really quick. I put it that way. And I think that that's helped me. Looking back, it's helped me tremendously in my life. And, everything is meant for something, right? Positive, I believe, and God uses a lot of situations in our lives, even though they're hard, to mold the person that he's creating, right? To be more like him in any way. And I have a long way to go in that, but the journey is real. And the suffering does produce good if you could look at it through a different lens sometimes, right? So fast forward through high school, a lot of things happened there. End up graduating high school, I got kicked out of school for getting into fights, and went through 4 different high schools in that process. And you can imagine, right? Coming from all that situation, there was a lot of anger, and I was just trying to figure out my way as a kid, and not knowing I didn't have really good direction on kind of what does success look like in life in general. All I really understood was, hey, I understood work ethic, because I learned how to make $1, because when we didn't have anything, I was a kid out there mowing lawns, picking weeds, trying to find a way to make something out of nothing. So I did learn that early on. And I think that's helped me now in my life to where I'm at today. But throughout high school, that was rough. And I had an opportunity to kind of make 2 paths in my life. One was either go down the path of potentially gangs, or situations where I maybe be in prison, just really stupid things that I was partook in as a kid, right? Or take the path of like, no, you know what, I'm going to finish school. Had a lot of folks around me that were dropping out and picking other lifestyles. And I was like, let me stay committed. And I was able to finish school, even though there was opportunity after opportunity presented to me to go the other way. So I finished high school, graduated in 99, and ended up going into, went to UNLV. I did a little bit of boxing there, always liked the fight game. And that's been something that I thought I was going to do growing up. I was like, either it was baseball or boxing. Baseball, high school, kind of ended in high school. And then I kind of transferred over into boxing. And I ended up meeting my previous wife, which she's the mother of my two older kids, and still love her. She's a great woman, great mother to my kids, and ended up meeting her at like 2021. And I remember my coach saying, "Hey, you either got to choose boxing or her, because boxing's very jealous. Like you can't be all in on this girlfriend and not be committed to the sport." And that was another turning point in my life, because I was, going to make the commitment to go all in. I had an agreement to kind of start my pro career with Top Rank. They were I was going to get the ball rolling in that, and I ended up getting married, and I lost all my interest to boxing. And now I know what that meaning really means, right? In the sense of how jealous that sport is. And I think that is for all high level sports in general. You got to really commit your whole life to it. And so I started my family at 21. My ex-wife at the time had 3 kids. She was a little bit older, had come out of a previous marriage. And I think there was something in me that always wanted to like raise a family. I don't know what it was. I was so gung-ho in getting started. And I don't know, maybe some psychiatrists out there can help figure that out. What was that? Why was I so gung-ho in that? Because that was a big driving factor. I almost wanted to be like, you know what, I'm going to own this. I'm going to raise an amazing family. And maybe it was because of all the things I just went through as a kid that I really gravitated towards wanting to be a father, wanting to really dedicate my life to being the best at that. And so I started that journey at 21, a kid raising kids. And my older kids now look at me and they're like, man, you're so much easier on the little ones than you were on us. I'm like, dude, you got to realize, I talk to my son like this, he's 17. I'm like, dude, I was a kid raising other kids. It's not the same, when I was raising, now that I'm raising I have a little bit more patience. I'll put it that way. So started that journey. And, by the time I was 25, we had household of 5 kids, busy. I got into real estate in 2003. I was waiting tables at the same time, just trying to get by. And I was starting my real estate career. And I started that in 2003 and did okay. Didn't do anything fantastic or great. But, we bought my first home, and then we had ended up buying the second home. And back then in the early 2000s, I mean, they were giving loans out to anybody that was breathing, right? So that was, it wasn't that hard to get a loan. You didn't have to save up. I think on both of my houses, I literally got them with no down payment. It was, if you're breathing, they gave you a loan. So what happened next? 2008 crash, literally lost everything, went bankrupt. The house just, we had to pretty much foreclose on it. And the decision was, okay, we're going to start a new life. We're going to go and let's pick a spot. It was California, Southern California, or Washington. At the time, my ex was looking for work, and she said, hey, there's a recruiting firm out in Seattle. They're going to hire me. And we're like, okay, that's where we're going to move. We literally knew nobody moving into Seattle. We didn't know, had no family, nothing. We move and we pack up our whole family and go out there. And, for about a month or two, just trying to get my bearings, understanding kind of who was what, where, just kind of getting the understanding of the area and so forth, and ended up getting a job really quick at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, downtown Bellevue. And I worked there for a few years. And then I got licensed at Keller Williams Bellevue. And that was where I started the process of kind of getting into the real estate industry out in Bellevue and started that. And, I did, again, okay, still doing both. And it wasn't until about 2010, 2011, presented with an opportunity to kind of create a crowdfunding site. And it was a buddy of mine, a good friend of mine that I grew up with. He ended up saying, hey, let's get together and let's create this crowdfunding site. It was the GoFundMe before GoFundMe pretty much. So it was called Winzel. And so we did that. We were pitching it at all these startup conventions and doing all this stuff. And we had it up for about a couple of years, just never got some traction. I think it was probably the timing of that type of solution wasn't ready for the market. So, we learned a valuable lesson through software development and how to really kind of scale something and all that, even though we failed at it. And then shortly after that, I was presented with the opportunity to go into telecom, join Verizon, got the corporate leadership kind of position, did extremely well there, managed roughly about 100 million in revenue for the company, developed a team, was successful year over year. And about 2016, I was going through an MBA program, and I had an opportunity to do a market analysis on a startup or a business in Seattle. And at the time, my wife, Lisa, let me take a step back. So ended up going through a divorce in 2010. And that's kind of where I don't have 2 wives now. I only have one. So it's, so in 2010, and Lisa and I got married in 2013. So we dated for a couple of years and then we got married after that. And in that process, Lisa was doing transaction coordination. She had just come out of being a high producing agent out of Keller Williams, had a team around her, and we had our first baby. And at the time, she was like, I'm just going to pause on real estate and I'm just going to focus on just something that I can do from home. So she started that process. And in the MBA course, I was asked, hey, do this at market analysis, see, come up with a marketing plan and all this. So I asked the professor, I can do it on a startup, and it was Lisa Mont-Ros Transactions. And so I did a market analysis, and I realized at the time there was a huge opportunity in the market that nobody was really addressing at scale. There was a lot of coordinators, real estate coordinators that were doing it individually, but nothing that was like positioned as a true business and really scaling. So that kind of got the wheels turning, and we ended up kind of forming a business out of that, which later became Moncord. Moncord was a combination of our last name and coordination, had to be 2 syllables. It was very intentional, the colors, everything that we had in our logos and all that. And we launched, and then, 6 years later, we ended up getting acquired, and now we're off to other ventures. And in between that, we've been part of other things too. But now we have a total of 5 kids. The oldest is 20, 17, 15, and we have a 7 and a 5-year-old. So not only, with the business side, but the family's growing and healthy. And so, so that's a quick, in a nutshell, story of Alex Mont-Ros. And there's a lot of details there, but I'll leave them for another day.
No, I love it. And I want to dig into some of these details, man, because
yeah,
what a fantastic story, man. That is awesome. It's the first time I've ever heard it. Hopefully someone listening to this can feel inspired by that. You said a lot of things that I caught, how, it's everything that you had gone through, it's building your character. I think if you look at everything as a character building, even if it's negative, it'll turn into the positive, like what you said, God will use it for good. And then the situation with the gangs, you mentioned, I had an opportunity to go with the gangs. And I feel like that, like, I don't know what that's like, but as a young, vulnerable person, like that's a great leadership opportunity, right? Because they rope you in, they want to lead you and build you up. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you didn't go there is big. So, okay. So we got the big zoom out picture of the story. So tell me a little bit about maybe some of the characteristics or some of the details of what specifically helped you consistently focus on growth. Like, what were some of the mindset tricks, or what were you doing to continue to grow so that you wouldn't seep down to the level of maybe even your circumstances, like failing here and working at a restaurant? Like, what were some of the things that you were working on throughout those obstacles to keep you growing, to keep you going?
Man, I'll put it in two ways. Like, it's a weird lesson to learn in the restaurant industry. So anybody out there, they'll resonate with this because it speaks volumes, and it's unfortunate in my opinion. So when you're in the restaurant industry, I feel like there's people that have just given up on their goals in life. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, by the way. It's really coming from a place of love but it was something I observed over time. I had worked at a restaurant in Vegas. It was like one of the most, it's a very well-known spot in Vegas. It's has history. They filmed the movie Casino in there. There was mobsters and I served like Mick Jagger and all these famous people, right? So it was a very well-known spot, but there was people there for like 20, 30 years. So think about that. Like, they just capped themselves. And this was when I was in my early 20s, and they had already been there that long. That's how long this restaurant, it's old Vegas type of restaurant. And I think, over time it was like, gosh, this can't be it. Like, when you make your first like $50,000 as a, young 20-year-old, like, wow, back in the day, it was like, man, it's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And then you make your first 100, and then you make your 200, then you make $1 million, you keep making more, and you realize, like, hold on, money's not really, money's just a tool. Money's just, if you really focus on the money side of things, it's unlimited, really, if you really put your mind to how much you want to make. So money's not really, it's potential. And I felt in the restaurant industry, I would just see people give up on their potential, and they just settled. And it was evident. The proof was there. If you're there for 20 years, you literally just gave up in life. Yeah. And then, not to say that they can't get out of it, because I do know a few folks that did, but that's in my 20s. And that's where I started to kind of take pivot, and I said, okay, I still have 6 hours or 7-8 hours in the morning till I come to this job at 4 o'clock. I got to be doing something to make a living. One, because I had a family. See, my situation is a little different.
Totally.
I already had a whole family to feed. So if I was single, like, I would probably I've never done that. I would just went all in on an idea, but that's coming from a place of like Monday morning quarterbacking now, to be like, would I have done that? I don't know. Maybe not. But I do know a lot of folks, when I feel proud for like someone that's in their early 20s to go all in on an idea that doesn't have a family. I'm like, man, they got to figure it out, because that's the time to really try it. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to figure things out that sometimes others, they haven't taken that leap yet, right? Because they're either fear or many other things. So the restaurant industry has taught me a little bit of like, that's not what I want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me make sure I don't end up like this. Yeah. And let me put my time that I have to use. It was normal. You get off the clock, 11, 12 o'clock at night, And what does everybody do in the industry? It's called industry hour or industry, night. People are going to the next bar to waste their tips on drinks or whatever, to then get up the next morning at 11 or 12 o'clock and not get anything done or be productive. So that didn't resonate with me. It never has, because I was always, even as a kid, I was always hustling and trying to find a way to do more and be more.
So were you exposed to someone? Like, was it like, oh, you saw this guy, you heard his podcast, you read this book, you had this mentor? Like, what triggered that? Because it's easy to conform to that. Or maybe it was your family and you're like, man, I got some mouths to feed. Like, I need to freaking get after it.
Family was one. Number two was when I had a good friend of mine. We're in business now. We have some other ventures going. He was the youngest real estate broker in Las Vegas. And him and I used to, in school, do some other nefarious things to make money. Okay. So, so he went the legit route, and it was good to see him grow. And he started growing his company successfully. And I think, so watching that, being at the restaurant where all these successful people were, and you start to hear conversations, even how they talk was different than how we would talk as a staff. You're hearing these conversations at this table. And I remember one day I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be sitting at one of these tables one day.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, I would continue to say that to myself. I'm going to keep, and then, so it was a process, right? And in my early 20s, you don't know what you don't know until, you're met with resistance, or you're met with, I would say, a situation that forces you to really have to be better. And it wasn't until the crash of 08 and then the move to somewhere really, new. I moved to Bellevue I was 20, right? Just turned 28. I moved to Bellevue not knowing a soul. And by the way, this is just my personal recommendation. If you have never left your home, I highly recommend to just, if it's fearful to leave to go to another place and like start over, if you can afford to do that, or you're by yourself, I highly recommend. It's one of the best experiences that I've ever did in my life, was go somewhere where I knew nobody and then start from the ground up. Because that gives you the confidence to know that no matter what, if you can do it there, you can maneuver in life anywhere and still figure out how to make it happen. And that journey of moving was like a chapter 2 of the growth of like, okay, now I don't know anybody. What am I going to do? Well, I'm not going to keep working at a restaurant. Well, I know real estate. Let me get into real estate. And it was those conversations of, meeting folks there. Like I have good friends to this day, Lloyd Ball and all these folks. I had my buddy Kenny, and we were all in the same journey of like, how do we become successful with this thing, with real estate particularly? A journey.
It's like what John Maxwell is like, the law of the lid, it's like your self-limiting beliefs. If there's anything that I feel extremely passionate about, is communicating and injecting faith into people. Like, hey, you're capable of way much more than you think you are. Like, you don't need to stoop down to your circumstances. You don't need to stoop down to your environment. Like, you can rise above that. You just need to be injected with a little bit of faith. You need the examples, real life testimonies. That's why I even have this podcast, is to bring people on like you who can rise above their circumstances, rise above the environment to really get through it. I mean, even me, it's like my mom went bankrupt. Like, I didn't grow up in an entrepreneur family. Like, I wanted to be in construction at one point in my life. Like, that was my career calling. I was like, no, like someone unlocked that to me, and they're like, hey, you're capable of more. And you start reading books, listening to podcasts, and it's just like next.
Yeah. And I want to take one quick step back, because I don't want this to get lost or misconstrued.
Yeah.
And I go back to the industry of the restaurant industry. I have a lot of love for anybody that's in that industry. And all I implore is anybody that's in it, either if you're determined to make that a career, and say, because there are career waiters, bartenders, and I know a lot of them, that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're stuck and you're like, I just do this because this is all I know, you got to start analyzing right now, this second, to be like, is this really what I want for my life? And if not, you got to get to work with the hours you do have, because a lot of them have a lot of hours that are just wasted for the most part. So that's only, I just want to correct that, because I don't want that to be a dig on that industry, because I come from that. I have a heart for that industry, the hospitality industry in general. But you hit something really, you know, I'm in 100% agreement with the journey of like unlocking. I think I'm still going through that. I mean, I think we all are, we will all continually. And I feel like
Infinite.
I hit my stride probably at the age of like 33, 34. I started hitting a stride, and it's only now I feel like it starts to compound in a positive way. And it wasn't until, I had some really great friends that were very honest with me. And part of my language, I remember one time I was upset with a friend of mine because, he would never hit me back. And I knew he was on this journey of growth of like, cause he was attending these seminars and doing all this stuff. And I was doing okay. I mean, I was successful. I was starting to get into my own success and all this, but I was bitter because he wouldn't ever reach out. And I would be like, hey, dude, like, oh, if I was X person, you'd be hitting me up for, hey, let's partner on a deal. But because you're not responding, you're not taking my calls. And I'd known him for a while, and we were good friends. And I remember one time he says, dude, stop being a little bitch about things. Right. And I'm like, and you know what, that one moment to this day in my early 30s hit me. And I was like, I actually am being that. Let me take responsibility. Let me actually encourage this man to continue on down his path and wish him well, because he's doing the right thing, and not be bitter. And I know what it means now to have people around you that don't understand that, and they don't even understand how to feel towards you. So sometimes it is a bitterness, sometimes it is a jealousy or whatever it is, because they don't know how to deal with their own selves of like why they're not in that place yet. Or why they haven't started that journey or walking in that path. So I went through that directly, and it wasn't until somebody called me out, which I'm thankful for, by the way, that he did, because it was something I needed to hear. Is like, don't do that. Like, encourage that person and move forward and help them move forward. And guess what? You're on your path, and somebody will come along and encourage you in the same way, but have good thoughts and goodwill towards those folks that are really trying to make that journey a reality for, in a positive way for them.
Yeah, no doubt. It's all about helping people.
Yeah.
Giving. Comparison will steal your joy just like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what it is. So you're in family, or you're in business with the family, with your wife. Tell me how that's been going. What kind of challenges have you guys come across?
I think over the last, 6 years now, we've been in business together. It's been awesome. We've had our challenges in that. I think the biggest challenge is disconnecting from the business and really reconnecting in the marriage. Mm-hmm. That's been the biggest challenge. It's not easy. And I don't really know if there is a truth behind like balance, work-life balance. I think it all blends itself once you commit to whatever goal and mission. It becomes a balance, and it becomes one. You become one with it. And those that are with you have to become one with it too. So I think the challenges we've had to overcome is really reconnecting, becoming better communicators, understanding that we have different styles, and knowing that, the way I communicate to her might not always be received in a positive way, even though I could communicate to somebody over here the same way and it will be received the way I'm intending it, and they're intending it to be received from me. So that's something that we've had to work on, which is good, because that's growth, and that's telling me like, okay, not everybody sees the world the way I do, and that's okay. Like, I need to pause, take in consideration how this person sees things, and then formulate my responses in a way that they can then interpret it in a positive light that will help us move forward in whatever situations. I failed miserably in that many times, and so I'm a work in progress. But that's been the biggest challenge is, finding the time to reconnect, and then taking that time to really be an effective communicator.
Yeah, that's good. I feel like you said that you don't like the work-life balance. Like, I see work-life balance as, I don't think that is really a thing, because I think balance is like alignment. I think of it as like a wheel where it's, okay, my work spoke needs to be filled up, my work tank, and then my family tank needs to be filled up, and then my other tank, and then my fitness tank, and all that stuff. And if all of those are in alignment, then actually that's what balance is. It's not just work, you know? And then another thing, it's like that you said, because I was kind of daydreaming of like what it would be like to work with my wife, you know, it would be like, the thing is, it's not like we come to work and we're someone completely different than we are outside of work. What happens 8 hours a day inside of work, like actually influences and is consistent with what it, and how it affects you outside of work, right? Like we always tell our team, like what we're working on here, how we're growing in here is not only going to make us better inside of these walls, but it's going to make us better outside of these walls. And then for you, it's probably just being super intentional with all the other spokes of like family and date nights and not just talking about work all the time, because that would probably just be empty.
Well, it consumes you. And that has become, and I know we've talked to a lot of other entrepreneurs that are, you know, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And it's a common thing. You can't get away from it. Here's an interesting aspect about this work-life balance thing that's been created, like that everybody's chasing. It's like the pursuit of happiness, this pursuit, you know, it's like there's never there's no like attainment of happiness, which I don't believe in, but it's the pursuit, right? So it's the pursuit of work-life balance, I think, is more appropriate, because at the end of the day, either, you know, there's always going to be an imbalance somewhere, especially with whatever goal you're going after. If it's to be the best, you know, family man, father, you know, what's going to suffer? Well, you might not be able to do your hobbies. You might not be able to do business might suffer. You might not be able to spend as much time on the business that it would require to maybe take it to the next level. But what if you want to build an amazing business, but you have a family? Well, I know a lot of folks that, you know, are traveling, you know, 7 days a week, 5 days a week, trying to build their business, and they have their family at home, you know, so there's an imbalance there, right? And is that just for a season? Is that something that keeps them moving forward consistently? And like, maybe there's a consistent season. I think everything has to be looked at in the lens of, rather than work-life balance, like, what is the season I'm in right now? Am I in the season of building my business? Then I have to be open with my family and let them know what's going on. Say, hey, I'm not going to be available. I'm going to be busy. This is for us. It's for the greater good. But I can guarantee that the time I will commit to you is going to be dedicated, and I'm going to be present. Whether that's an hour, whether that's, you know, because 1 hour presence better than 4 hours disengaged and not knowing what's going on and halfway there. And everybody senses that. Kids know it. Your wife, husband, boyfriend, girl, everybody, they know that. They know when you're engaged or not. So I think it's, you know, understanding like what season you're in, and then being open about that season and communicating that in a way that's positive, and getting the feedback. Like, what do you want to see from me? Family, business. What do I need? You know, if I'm going to now go into the season of building up my family, but my business is going to suffer a little bit because I'm not going to be able to give it all my time and energy. Okay, well, what do I need to do? I'm going to communicate maybe delegation and processes and all these other systems to be able to get away, right? So everything is I believe more of a aspect of seasons than it is like trying to get it all, you know, figured out. And then same thing with fitness. You know, you're up early. I got it. You know, that's number one for me, and not something I didn't share. You know, I had one heart attack at 33, and I had, you know, I've had like recently in January, I had like 5 stents that had to be put in because I had a blockage. Hereditary, something I can't control. But what I can control is my health, right? I can eat. I get up at 4:30, hit the gym, and get that work in, because I know you think I'm going to go to the gym right now after my family's waiting for me now. I put in all my hours for work. So I find a way to do that. But, you know, those things are just, you got to find the time. And then there's going to be things that are going to be way, you got to commit overly to. And then I believe that you have to look at those as seasons. For a season, I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit more time to this. It's not forever, it's just for a season. And then communicate what that's going to mean to either the business or what that's going to mean to the family.
Yeah, that's good. I like the notion of seasons, just because it allows you to have a clear mission of where you're going. And because if you don't communicate seasons and you're trying to juggle everything, you're just going to be ankle deep in a bunch of things and not do anything well. Versus if you're just transparent about this mission, like, this is my season, this is my mission of the season, then the submission of getting people involved in the mission is much easier, you know, versus you're doing too much and you're not engaged, and like you lose presence, which is like the saddest thing. And I've been there too. Like, I'm just like, I'm not present, I'm not here.
Yeah, it sucks. And you know it. And I think it's not I mean, we hear a lot of it being talked about podcasts. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about being present. It's such a big deal because it's everything. Like, if you're not present in if you're not present in your workouts, here's what I'm learning too, by the way, recently, just on the fitness side of things, like the importance of concentration on whatever muscle group you're working out on. Think about that for a minute. So and it dawned on me, I'm like, there's times where I'm working out and you go through the motions, but you're not connecting brain to muscle to be able to get that full workout in, right? Or the full effect of the workout in. And the moment I was like, hold on, let me focus on whatever, let's call it a bicep curl, and put muscle to the muscle to the brain. And sure enough, like the muscle like reacts and knows like, oh, we're connecting now. I'm actually, I was like, there's so much power in that. Everything being present is key. And same thing with your family, same thing with the business. The one thing, you know, we all try to get away from, especially now in this remote world we live in, virtual world, is, you know, everybody's on calls. We're on these Zoom calls. And I know when my people aren't engaged because I can see them typing, you know, all quietly and like staring at this blank stare. Like, I know what you're doing. I know you're looking at the screen. And we've had a lot of these calls about like, hey guys, look, for like 20 minutes, we just need you present because the information we're giving to you is important. You've got to be present. I know there's work to do. I know you're slammed. I promise we're not taking away time from you for no reason. This is important. But being present, it's hard. It's hard. And I think we all, to some extent, struggle with that, you know. And
Sabrina's love language is being present, quality time. So I've really had to try to learn how to like put the phone away, ask good questions, and turn off work when I turn off work. So it's been fun. Yeah. So with like fitness, how is fitness like correlated into business life? Because when I am working out and when I wake up in the morning, when I don't want to, when I feel good, when I'm accomplishing goals, I feel like that ripples into everything I do, especially business. Have you experienced the same thing?
Oh man. The one thing I'm learning right now in this journey of fitness is self-mastery. And that's, let me tell you, like I thought all these different, you know, aspirations I had were, you know, make $100 million and this and that. And recently I've been really analyzing this whole concept of like, what do I really want in life? And I go back to self-control, which ultimately is self-mastery, period. That's all I'm aiming for right now. So what does that mean? Like, well, it starts with everything, like in the sense of how can I reject the urge to eat that extra whatever? Can I strengthen my mind and to act upon my will to get up in the morning? So the will, like the mind is weak, the will is strong. I have a will to say, yes, I want to work out. The mind in the morning tells me, dude, you're tired, man. It's okay. Take a nap. I mean, not take a nap, but it's okay. Like another 30 minutes. And then the next thought is, you know what? It's all right, man. Like, you know, at the end of the day, you probably get that workout in tomorrow. And the more you entertain it, the worse it gets, right? Because it kind of it's a downward spiral. And then, so it's mastery of self in the sense everything matters. I mean, everything is encompassed in that, in the sense of how I eat, how I present myself. Am I really coming from a standard of excellence in my life? Am I strengthening my mind so that I can actually tap into my strong will? Because the truth is, we all have strong wills. Every single one of us does. It's just directing that strong will into something positive, right? So because once you direct it, it's game over. So if I can master self and have that journey and go on that journey of mastering self, I can accomplish anything. There's nothing I can't accomplish.
Yeah.
And then I go back to like, you know, the fruits of the spirit, right? And that's why self-control is one that's always stuck with me. And I'm starting to really fully understand what that truly means. Everything, you know, and I believe like we're living on, you can either live to your real self, which your real self knows the potential, and your real self is everything that you aspire to be. And then, or we have our lower self of how we actually like give in to our, let's call it like our carnal or animalistic type of desire. And if we keep giving into that stuff and we don't ever fight it with like true, like if it's like the end of the, like if I don't do this, it's like the ramifications are big. Like I have to make sure health is good for my family so that I can have energy to run my business, so I can be present, because I'm developing the mind to also, when I want to kind of check out and not be present, I've developed the self-control and self-mastery to be like, no, phone down, let me be present with my family at this very moment. So I think it all culminates to like the journey of self-mastery. And that is something that right now, that's all I'm all in on. I'm not messing around anymore. I've gone, you know, and it's just something I've been on for a while, but it matters, man. Like more than anything I've ever put my mind and energy to is really mastering myself and my urges and my desires and all those things that are consistently coming at us on a day-to-day basis to make us lower than what we're potentially, you know, capable of being.
Yeah, that's good. Thinking about your bigger self, because I think so many people operate as you know, in neutral. They're just kind of going like, it's just, oh, I'm going to eat crappy. Oh, I'm just going to wake up late. Oh, I'm going to wake up when I decide to, versus tapping into the factors like fitness, health, self-control that are actually going to build a character to sustain what you're sustaining, you know?
I want to hit on a point with regards to like faith and look and like tying these two things together.
Come on.
So when I lived, you know, I became a believer in Christ at 19, and my journey it's been a journey, right? I'm a work in progress. At the same time, what I've come to like recently identify of like my walk in this faith is that it was a very passive type of faith, in the sense that if I'm saved by grace and I have grace given to me, what have I been taking advantage of this grace?
Yeah.
And if I were to be honest, I'm like, yes. Why? Well, because I haven't actively put faith to work.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, you have to take the time to strengthen the mind that God has given you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, just because you have grace doesn't mean that you can just chill and be passive in your faith and allow things to be like, well, you know, I made a mistake. It's good. God's got me.
Yeah.
And then again, and then again, and again, and it never ends. And then then what happens? You're miserable. You wonder why you're not closer in your walk. You wonder why things aren't going a certain way. And you're like, hold on, this is not a passive deal, man. Like we're in the game. We're in the game. We have to be active in our faith and active in developing that self-control. Yes, it's given to us. We have to tap into it now. And that's where I go back to, like, everybody's been given that grace and that the ability to really tap into something greater. It takes work though. And that's what I've recently realized. Like, I've been way too passive in my faith. I got to step up, and there is work to do now so that I can actually live to the potential God has for me.
Come on. I mean, the Bible says, like, if you're either all in or you're all out. Like, what do they do with the lukewarm Christians? Like, they're going to spit them out. Yeah. So you can't be lukewarm. And another thing you said from the get-go is like, I've been a believer since I was 19. Like, we are believers. We're not, we're not gracers, you know, like we are believers. We're supposed to believe that we have the same power that rose like Jesus from the grave. We can believe that we can heal. We believe that miracles can happen. We believe that we can move mountains. It's like, man, if you actually understood that and absorbed that, you can do anything. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. It's like, wow. Like, oh my, I'm a huge proponent of that. And especially unlocking that in Christians, because Christianity, sometimes it can be a little bit of the passiveness, you know, a little bit of of the grace heavy. And it's like, oh, God forgives me. God forgives me. It's like, man, no, like we are believers. We're not gracers. Like we are, like we have the same power that rose Jesus from the grave. Come on. So
it doesn't magically happen. Like the fruits of the spirit don't magically happen. Like you don't just magically
100%.
get self-control. You know what I mean? Like, and that was the struggle in my faith for so many years. And still, you know, I still deal with that. It's like, how did I accept this to be a way that I'm going to accept to live my life versus taking action and like owning my faith and saying, no, I have to own this now.
Yeah.
And because I know if I look and I envision who I know I'm meant to be, it's amazing. Like, why wouldn't I put the work in to be that person?
For sure.
I'd be a fool.
Yeah.
To stand before God one day and be like, dude, I didn't even come close to my potential, Lord. You good with that?
Yeah.
Like, no, dude, like I gave you the talents.
Yeah.
Why we want to do something with it?
We want to say good and faithful, well done, good and faithful servant, good and faithful servant, right? So it's really fair. And it's like, it's not like Noah just snapped his finger. There was an ark that took him years and years to build. Like, do you think David wasn't freaking practicing swinging the rock when he got against Goliath? And even in the secular,
those examples, so many of those.
Even in the secular, the Michael Jordans, like the Walt Disneys, the Wright brothers, like there's endless examples of just
universal across the board, secular to the believer, because it's a God law. It's like, you got to still roll with that. And so that's I think been the awakening in me. And another thing too is like, I used to always, you know, pray in a sense of like a fear, leading my prayer with fear without faith. And then you wonder, like, why aren't things not to say like miraculously happening or whatever, but half-heartedly in a fear. It's interesting. Like most of us will pray when we're already in the state of fear. Yeah. And remember, so like what good could ever come out of that? Yeah. It's always like the last resort, by the way, when people start praying. It's like, oh 100%. Man, I'm so now. Why would you expect ever to have anything good come out of that prayer when our sense is out of a fear, and fear and faith can't even coexist together? Yeah, 100%. They can't coexist. So these are things that like, man, it's just, again, going back to like, okay, if I'm starting to feel fearful of anything, I have to re-grab that feeling, emotion, whatever it is, and instill faith there and be like, no, this is in faith. This is what I believe, should happen, or this is what I'm asking to happen, or this is how I'm going to, in faith, and take a leap of faith into a new opportunity versus out of a sense of fear. And man, the dramatic change I've had in my life just by, kind of observing and then practicing and having that faith kind of put to work. Yeah. Can't explain it, man. Like, brother, it's not like
I've got goosebumps right now. Amazing. Yeah, I got goosebumps right now. I mean, the power of life and death is in our tongue. Mm-hmm. Like we have the power to move mountains. Like what we speak, what we think will become real. Like it's evident in the Bible for believers, even in the secular, like law of attraction and that kind of stuff. It's like a real thing. It's because it's funny also because science is catching so much up with the Bible and like the reticular activating system and stuff like that. It's like where your focus goes, your energy flows, and like stuff's going to happen. It's like, okay, the Bible says that one, but it's like the more we think about stuff, the more we're positive, the more we're going to start attracting that because our brain's going to start filtering just the positive, just that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's like, if you speak it, if you believe it, if you, all that stuff, it's going to happen. And like, you're a living testimony of it. I'm a living testimony of it. Ask Tony Robbins, ask any successful business person. If they're not going to say, oh, I didn't believe I was going to have this business, but it just kind of happened. It was like, no, like they had faith. They were taking risks. They believed. They were going after it. So yeah, man, that gets me fired up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been the biggest, I think, recent shift in kind of reassessment of my life and my journey and like, what do I really want? So I'm all in on that. And going back to fitness, I think just denial of self and knowing that if I push and I put the work in to be where I want to be physically and health wise, because now, I mean, I don't have a choice. Like I have to do what I have to do because of my heart and all that.
Yeah.
I have kids who, dude, I can't even get here's the crazy part. I can't even get life insurance. I told Lisa the other day, because there was a life insurance policy company that came to us, and she goes, well, I go, they'll probably give her, 5-10 million, who knows? They'll give her whatever they want, because she's as healthy as ever. But I go, but here was my mentality back in even, what was it, 2013, when I had the heart attack.
Yeah.
My mentality was like, dude, I'll create my own life insurance. I'm not going to,
come on.
I'm not going to ever wait. And so they actually recently, they had, Lisa had, for some things, it was an exam for life insurance. And we made the joke, and like, dude, they would never, I mean, I'd have to pay $1 million a year for $1 million policy. Because the way that they're like, dude, you're statistically, you probably should not, survive by X, but all those things, I don't have a choice now. Like, I have to do, they're non-negotiables at this point in my life. So.
Yeah. And there's also the same thing with fitness. It's like, when I'm in the gym, when I'm pushing myself, when I'm like running and getting after it, it's like, I think about, like, if I can push my limits in fitness, that means I can push my limits in all areas of my life. And I also think of people like David Goggins, like Jocko. Like, I'm really inspired by the military.
Yeah, me too.
The SEALs, like the Rangers, like the top dogs, is like what they go through. We don't even have any clue of the like crap that they have to experience,
Yeah. It's levels, man, of like, Goggins' journey of like, starting out, and then it's all mental. And once you realize how much you're capable of, and that's where now I can understand where some people don't have the patience with others to be like, oh, I'm too tired, or my knee hurts today. Or I get it now. Cause I'm like, dude, there really is no excuse, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's absolutely, we live in a time now where everything's at our fingertips. You want workouts on how to work out, it's at your fingertips. You want a gym, it's $10 a month.
Yeah.
At all these gyms, you can find a gym. You want a gym or you can't get to a gym,
go run outside.
There's so many running outside, push-ups,
Yeah.
There's just no excuse.
Yeah.
So for people that build the excuse, it's layered. There's other things there that they have to deal with and get past to know that they can, at least get started. Right.
Yeah. I think it's one of the pillars of success and growing and doing that. It's like, okay, there's reading books, there's getting mentors, there's listening to podcasts, there's fitness. Like, that needs to be a huge pillar, because that's going to affect everything, and it's going to affect how you feel, which is going to affect how you work, which is going to affect how you consume and all that stuff. So
Agreed.
Yeah. Fitness is massive, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and you motivate me too, man. I'll be honest, dude. I get on and I'm like, dude, this guy ran at 5:30. I'm like, okay, it's 5 o'clock, but he already did like 5 miles. I'm like, man, I gotta, cause right now I'm not doing I haven't done too much cardio, but to me, I'm like, dude, I gotta get to work, man. I gotta get so believe it, man. And here's the crazy part. People are watching. You never know who's watching and getting motivated by just simple things. You don't have to have 1 billion followers to help one person. I've had many people be like, hey bro, thanks a lot, man. And, and I'm like, on my stories, I don't have that, many people, but they're like, hey, thanks dude for, that was awesome. I appreciate that. I didn't know you did this or did that. So you just never know who you're going to impact. And if it's one person, I mean, from a social media perspective,
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we gotta keep ourselves accountable. And that's one thing that I do like about social media. Yeah, I'm in the business, but it's like, if we can hold ourselves accountable and use the platform to be inspired and follow people that inspire us, in one of my podcasts, we talked about like a social media cleanse and making sure like who you're looking at on social media is actually going to fire you up. Who are you following that's motivating you and inspiring you to wake up at 5 a.m. to get a workout in or whatever, because that has a huge impact on my mental health, especially in the comparison trap, which we alluded to earlier. And it's like, man, like I got to be following the right people. I got to have the right people in my circle. I got to like be consuming the right things. Otherwise, it's just like if the foundation's not set, then you're not gonna be able to build. Yeah. But if it's a good foundation on a rock, then you're set, man.
Agreed.
Yeah, so good, man. Well, how can people find out about you? This conversation's got me fired up. I feel like going and running 10 miles right now. I know you're in Arizona, so it's probably like 120 right there right now.
Degrees, yeah.
So you should probably not go out and run.
Yeah.
Maybe
Man.
you can do some
Actually,
push-ups.
got some, this stubborn, belly, kind of little fat that doesn't want to go away. So I got to probably wear a sweatsuit out here. But anyhow, no, I'm of course, on Instagram at Alex Mont-Ros, LinkedIn, same name, no hyphen on the Instagram though. And of course, Facebook, I'm on there too. But no, yeah, I mean, if anything, I appreciate you bringing me on. Hopefully, some tidbits of things that I've learned in my life, and hopefully it helps somebody out there. And yeah, I'm proud of you, man. And thanks for all the hard work you're doing. It's motivating me. And I know it's motivating a lot of other folks as well, as I, see your following, and you're doing great, man. It's great to see.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Inspired by you. We got to keep each other in our circles and keep inspiring each other and keep growing each other. So you're somebody that I want in my circle and want to continue to stay connected with. Hopefully these listeners and people watching it will follow Alex, reach out to Alex, hit him up, connect with him, man. We need good people in our circles, and he's a good one.
For sure. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.